So, right, the plan for today, I've listed a bunch of topics we can go through. Um, so we'll of course have like quick introductions, and then we'll briefly go through like the ZecHub Hackathon. And I was thinking we could give like a super high level overview of what Zcash is and like what it's capable of, and then some more exciting stuff from there. But for now, I think, yeah, can we get some introductions? Everyone who's on the panel. We'll start with this Mad.
Hey guys, I am a ZecHub core contributor, and I specialize in working with full nodes and helping others connect with the blockchain at the most basic levels. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be here to answer them, and I appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you. And yeah, super important. If anyone has questions, feel free to request to become a speaker, or you could even like post it in the Discord, and I'll probably see it. And we have Paku as well.
Hey, yeah, I'm Paku. I'm CZG's developer relations engineer, and I work a little bit everywhere, and I try to be a liaison between the different Zcash teams, and I do contributions in the Zcash core libraries and the mobile SDKs. I'm the original developer of the iOS Zcash SDK, which powers Sachi, Unstoppable, and Edge Wallet. And yeah, glad to be here, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. That was back when it was called Secant, I think.
Oh yeah, it was called. Yeah, it was the code name second. Yes.
Awesome. Right. So let's get to it. And yeah, if anyone wants to come up and ask questions at any point, feel free. Feel free. We're going to briefly go over the ZecHub Hackathon. So this is the reason we're hosting this call. We are doing our second hackathon. We hosted a hackathon last year, and we had two really cool submissions. One of them was from James Katz, who is the most recent ZecHub DAO member. And he made the winning submission. It was a game. It was called Zebra Racing, and you would log on to the site, and you would pay some Zec. Each player would pay some Zec, and your zebra would race. And the first one to reach the finishing line would receive some kind of a payout. That was really cool. We had another submission, and it was more of a proof of concept, and it was a Zcash messenger. So we'll probably go through the features of Zcash, but on Zcash you can send encrypted memos, and so it can be used as like a payments app where you're just sending and receiving coins, but you could also use it as an encrypted messenger. So yeah, we'll get to some of those features in a second. But if you're unfamiliar with the hackathon, you can go to hackathon.zechub.wiki. Excuse me. And yeah, there you'll see the contest rules. So if you do want to participate, please do click the button Hackathon Rules. And yeah, you'll see what is necessary for an eligible submission. I'd say the most important criteria is that your app, whatever it is, needs to interact with Zcash mainnet in some way. Yeah. So I think there are some other rules, such as having your source code published to the ZecHub Hackathon repo. So we're an open source project. Everything we fund has to be freely accessible for people to reuse or modify, what have you. So yeah, go to hackathon.zechub.wiki and check out the rules. I think there's 21 days. Let me check. 21 days and 14 hours remaining in the hackathon. And yeah, good luck to everyone who's participating. So we'll begin with, what is Zcash? Yeah, maybe Paku, could you give us like a quick overview of what Zcash is?
All right. Well, Zcash is obviously a cryptocurrency protocol. It was originally forked from Bitcoin Core from around 2015. It's currently a proof of work consensus blockchain, which is powered by zero knowledge proofs to actually provide privacy between people who transact or machines who transact, because today, like, everyone is invited, even agents, to our technology. So anyone who transacts, no matter if it's human or a bot, it can transact privately with no link between transactions, no revealed amounts, and no one being able to query your shielded address for a balance in a block explorer. And Zcash basically has two types of transactions. The private transactions are called shielded transactions, and then you have transparent transactions, and then you have the mix of those, which is going from a shielded transaction to a transparent transaction, and the other way around. So you have the freedom to choose every degree of privacy you want when you transact with Zec. And that it's one of the biggest challenges of the protocol, because it's a little bit more nuanced when it comes to deal with this privacy situation, where you have to actually go around some challenges to be able to transact privately, and you can't cut a lot of corners the way, like, for example, people at Ethereum or Bitcoin do, because all of their information is public. So, but that's the fun, and that's the idea of the hackathon, of, I guess, to build cool products around shielded Zcash and make good things that are completely private for everyone to use.
Yep, 100%. And yeah, I don't even think we made any stipulation as to if like only shielded transactions are allowed, like, in the hackathon. But as you said, some, like, a part of the magic of what Zcash provides is people's choice of, like, whether they want to reveal some parts of their activity or not. So yeah, you said it was a fork of Bitcoin, and so I think intrinsic to this is this notion that there's no smart contracts, right? It's like UTXOs. And so for people who are building on Zcash, you can't have this, I don't know, shared state of data somewhere on a smart contract that someone can easily access and do cool things with. Usually, I think in all cases, whatever you're building is going to have some kind of centralization. So you're going to be running some kind of server or it could be like a local device, maybe a Raspberry Pi or a laptop that you have. And whatever your application is, you're running it from that device. Would you say that's correct?
Well, it depends on what you want to build. For example, if you want to, I don't know, build something like, I don't know, a blog explorer, for example, that you will only need in this case the full node, the access to the full node, and you have to like run a full node to use it as a backend. But when it comes to shielded things, then yes, there is an amount of processing that the owner of the keys that are involved in those transactions, for example, the user of the application. If you have an application that lets you do something with shielded sec, then you, in order to operate, you will have to have your private keys to author a transaction, for example. But then to author a shielded transaction, you need to be synced up with the blockchain at some level. No matter if it's a full node or a light client application, like a mobile application, there's some deal of synchronization there, because there are some certain states that are particular and to that user that are needed in order to create the zero knowledge proofs to author a Zcash transaction. So that state that other blockchain applications actually query to a server or an API that is public. Here, when it comes to shielded Zcash, that's a state you need to recreate on your own, because that's kind of how the privacy comes from. So yes, there will be some amount of processing that your application will have to handle at a local level.
Yeah.
Whether that's the server which is interested in that state, or if it's the client, then yeah, that's their chore to make.
That's the process known as trial decryption, right?
Trial decryption is one of the things, but mostly is processing the blockchain or the compact blockchain, if it's a mobile or like client, like browser application, and then like doing a bunch of things to have that state in sync with the blockchain in order to create a zero knowledge proof that has some inputs that then the full nodes at the network, peer-to-peer network layer, can actually validate. So
Right.
So yeah, could be trial decryption, but this is some other things. Fortunately, if you, for example, use the WebZ.js framework or the mobile SDKs, or maybe a CLI like Zingaliv, those like low-level operations are kind of taken care for you, and you can just worry about the logic of your application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recently started trying out Zingolib, or Zingo Key. Maybe we can kind of dig into that. But it's amazing. Like the barrier to entry is so much lower. So let's jump into, you mentioned full nodes. Let's figure out the Zcash stack. So for people who are interested in building on Zcash, let's give them an understanding of what components the network uses. So we have full nodes. There's Zcash D, which is the original full node from when the original fork of Bitcoin was made. And this has been running for a very long time, and it's become very complex, I think, is the way to put it. And so the Zcash Foundation spent many years creating a new Zcash full node or consensus software, and it's called Zebra. So if you want to run Zebra, you can go to zebra.zfnd.org, and it'll take you to the Zebra book, and this is the full documentation for the node, and it tells you everything from system requirements to where it's supported, installation instructions, and it's literally got everything in there. So zebra.zfnd.org, and you can run a full node. Maybe I'll ask Dismad very quickly, why would you be interested in running a full node?
Well, first of all, you're supporting the Zcash network, which I think is cool. And secondly, when you query the blockchain, like for example, on a block explorer, maybe you don't understand that that's actually accessing a full node in some other place. So you're trusting that whoever's running that node isn't logging data. So if you wanted to do it in a more privacy conserving way, you can run your own node, run a block explorer on your node, and then if you run that locally, you can query your block explorer without anyone else seeing what you're doing. So it's more private, and in terms of performance, I think it's also faster. And then one of the things that I hear criticism of is like, well, I run those. How do I run a full node? And my answer to that is it is a bit of friction to learn Linux, but there are options available. For example, you may not know of MyNimbox. It's a new provider that recently added support for shielded Zcash. So you can actually use shielded Zcash and pay for a server on the cloud and set up a node that way. Hopefully that answers your question, Squirrel.
Yep, thank you. So I think the way to like comment in a space is to reply to the space. Is that right? So I've just posted the link. Check it out. And yeah, please do run a node. Every week we share like network stats, and part of that is the number of nodes on the network. And there are different ways that you can kind of count the other peers that your node sees. So it's pretty interesting to look at. Head to the ZecHub dashboard, and you can see like a graph of the number of nodes on Zcash over time. I think we see a lot of the shielded supply chart, right? Everyone is like super optimistic about the shielded supply chart, but I think sharing the number of nodes growing over time could be just as like beneficial for the community, and for new people who haven't tried Zcash, they could see that people are really engaging with the network in a ground level, real way. Yeah.
Squirrel, I just want to add another cool reason to run a node is the idea that you don't trust but verify, and a lot of the shielded stats and stats of the Zcash network are wrong on the internet for whatever reasons. So if you run a node, you can verify for yourself, and you have the accurate answers, and that's potentially an application. But yeah, just an idea.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it would be pretty embarrassing for a big, well-known block explorer to have like many community members saying, "Hey, I verified this myself, and your thing is wrong." Okay, so we've covered full nodes. Let's go to Lightwalletd servers /Zano. Yeah, Paku, could you explain to us? I think you already did, but Lightwalletd.
Okay. The Lightwalletd server is an implementation of the Light Client protocol of Zcash. This is ZIP 307, which its purpose is to provide a version that is around 90% lighter than the full blockchain, and that allows like applications that for any reason they don't want to handle the full size of the blockchain. Like currently, the Zcash blockchain is at around 300 gigabytes of storage. So if your application doesn't need to or want to handle all that information, you can be a light client of the Zcash blockchain, and that's actually connecting to the blockchain through a light client server, which can be either Zcash Lightwalletd and or Zano. Lightwalletd can be backed either by a Zcash server or a Zebra node, and it's a Go implementation of this light client protocol that uses gRPC, which are like protocol buffers to communicate and like stream data, like the blocks and transactions and all that. And then Zano is a part of the new stack of Zcash that we call Z3, which is like Zebra, Zano, and Zallet. Zano is an indexer purely written in Rust. It's currently in development, and not all the functionality of Lightwalletd is supported by it. So that you have to have in mind when choosing which implementation to use. But for example, if you wanna if you use Zingo CLI to create a wallet and interact with the blockchain through it, that CLI will actually connect to a Lightwalletd server or a Zano server and interact using the light client protocol, which means that you won't be needing to actually download 300 gigabytes of data to sync up with the blockchain, which is very good for many purposes, like saving server costs and or like running on desktops and mobile phones.
Yeah. Yeah. So for anyone that's run a Zebra node or tried to run one, we have Tron in the chat, and yeah, I think Tron and James, I think Ogaski's looking to run a node, but yeah, those guys do run nodes. Zero Darts has a Zebra node on like a really small device, the size of like a credit card or something. It's pretty cool. But yeah, for those people who run nodes, they're familiar with the fact that it does take, depending on your hardware, it could take between like 1 day and maybe 5 days. So yeah, using Zingo CLI and connecting to a Lightwallet server gets you up and running instantly.
Squirrel, I just want to add to echo on Paku's point. Like make sure Lightwalletds and Zanods, these light servers are really what make mobile applications possible in practical terms. So if you're using a Zashi, it's really possible through that light wallet architecture, which does connect to the full node, but without it, it wouldn't work as smoothly. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Indeed. And for those like very privacy minded folks out there, yeah, your mobile wallet connects to a third party Lightwalletd server. I do know that Emersonian doesn't log any data, but if you do want to like only trust your own infrastructure, running your own Lightwalletd server is just that extra step that you can take to protect your privacy, essentially. Yeah, so Zano is still in development. Would you recommend that for people who are building or trying new apps, that they should stick with Lightwalletd, Paku?
It depends on whether the APIs that they need are present in Zano or not. But given it's a hackathon, I will welcome anyone to actually try the new stack out, even if it's in development, and obviously contribute with any issues they come around. It will be like super helpful for the Zano devs to have that kind of feedback.
Okay, noted. Yeah, so I think we're still a bit too abstract. We have Zebra, we have Zano, and Lightwalletd. Paku has just mentioned RPCs, and so like bringing this into reality for people who are building apps. I'm not too familiar myself. Maybe Dismad, could you list off a few RPCs that people can use either to get network metrics or submit transactions,
Sure.
create addresses? Yeah.
So it depends on which package or which RPC server you're going to use. I know the three off the top of my head are Zingo Cli, which is part of ZingoLib, Zcash Dev Tool, which is probably the preferred route for most of the devs, and then also Paku mentioned Zallet, which is also being developed, and that's pre-alpha, so it has some edges, but it's getting worked on. But essentially, all you need to do once you have an RPC server running is you roll and run commands to get blockchain data. So, for example, you could run a get raw transaction command through curl, and you give it a transaction ID, and then it'll spit out data that you can use for your application. Another RPC call is zSendMany, and that is what you'll use to send transactions through the RPC server into the Lightwalletd server, and then into the whole node, and then it goes into the cloud from there.
Right. So look up the RPCs for Zingo Cli. If you install ZingoLib and you start running, like you can just type in, I think, Zingo-Cli, is it -- help? And all the commands for Zingo Cli will come up. And yeah, you can decide what you want to build from there. So yeah, Dismad mentioned zSendMany. So one of the really cool things that you can do, like app that you can create, or one of the cool things that Zcash can do, is you can send one private transaction with many recipients. Okay, so this is useful. Let's say you want to build something like a bounty system. At the moment, ZecHub uses dwork, but dwork is designed for EVM chains, and so there's no native Zcash payment using dwork. So if you wanted to build something cool, you could make like a native Zcash bounty system, bounty board, where at the end of the week, all of the payments can get sent at the same time to all of the contributors, and it would still be shielded. You could still include the encrypted memo, which says the work that you've done and everything. So yeah, there's a lot of design space in Zcash, I think, unexplored. Another cool thing that you could build, which I made like a test version of, is a newsletter or a publishing app where you have something interesting you want to say, right? We see on Twitter many people have like Substacks or Medium accounts where they have, their listeners or their people, and they send messages to them, broadcast messages to them every now and then. You could do something like that on Zcash where someone pays a subscription fee, and like the great thing is you don't get their email address. So yeah, I mean, for bad guys, you can probably like giving someone your email address it's not a good thing. People can misuse that, send you spam and dangerous links and whatnot. With Zcash, if you give someone your shielded address, they can't see an identity. They can't see your finances, your balance. They can't look it up in a block explorer or anything. So it's really convenient. And using Zcash, you can pay the subscription fee, and whoever you're paying it to can send you monthly newsletters or whatever. And they can do it very easily using something like ZSendMany, where they simply type it and they have their list of subscribers or a list of shielded addresses, and they send it once and it goes out to everyone. Yeah, good ideas here. So we've covered Zebra, we've covered Lightwalletd and Zano. Yeah, maybe Dismad, could we get an introduction of what Zallet is?
Sure. Zallet is going to be the Zcash wallet replacement. So the big change that's being introduced is the wallet that's in Zcash is going to be separated and isolated, so that, and this is also true with the Z3 stack in terms of the Lightwallet servers. Theoretically, each component could be ran on different servers. So you have the full node on server A, you have an indexer on server B, and then you could connect all these to a wallet on some other computer. So I think the idea is to, from a privacy and security perspective, to keep everything isolated, because it's more secure. So that's the wallet that's being built out. So they're in the process of basically emulating and improving the wallet that's in Zcash, and the process is ongoing. But I would say it's not quite ready for most devs unless you're like very well versed. I would start with the Zcash dev tool, and that are polished for developers to start using right away.
Understood, thank you. So I guess I'll post the link to the Zcash dev tool. Using these things, infrastructure is required. Yeah, you mentioned something really cool, which is that with the new Z3 stack, all the components are separated. So previously you had to be running Lightwalletd on the same machine that you were running your full node. But because Zano is an indexer, you can run it separately. Something cool that this brings to Zcash is, I think it makes it more similar to something like Ethereum, where you can query things on the chain. You can query chain data separately. So your app can speak to a public Zano, for example. Would that be correct, Kaku?
So because like the public interface is mostly like client data, But yes, Zeno can index a lot of data that it's not related to any wallet in particular. So, for example, if you want to know, like it indexes all like known nullifiers, the current tree, like commitment tree states for the blockchain. It keeps track of the many different competing chains on the proof of work algorithm, and that can be queried from your app, and it actually indexes the mempool, and that other stuff. But it's I think I'll have to double check the code, but I don't think there's actually a Zeno that it's like open completely, but it's a matter of trying. Like if you check the ZecRocks state status page, then you should be able to see that there is I think is zeno.unsafe.zec.rocks, something like that. That it has a Zeno server that you can like poke.
Oh, nice. I've been wondering what the unsafe thing was.
It's because it's for development. They may upload an image of Zeno that is not an official release, for example.
I see. Yeah, so very quickly, I've just posted a link to the community forum. We've been mentioning parts of the Zcash stack. We've mentioned the full nodes, Zeno, Zallet very briefly. If you're running Lightwalletd, you can be earning Zcash, right? So one way to earn Zcash is contributing to the project through ZecHub bounties. And recently, Emersonian has invited people to run Lightwalletd servers, and they can earn Zcash for it. So read through this post. I think it's paid out by your uptime. So yeah, maybe if you're not in the top 3 of hackathon submissions and you at least have a Lightwallet server running, you can still be earning Zec. Okay, so I have here, Zingolib. We've got some app ideas. Shall we talk about encrypted memos? Of course, we're all familiar with Zashi and like the messaging feature in Zashi and in YWallet and in Zingo. You can send private messages with your Zcash transactions. But like we could use this memo field. It has 512 bytes of available space that you can send with any one transaction. So you can be using that space maybe to send instructions to a distant computer somewhere, right? Yeah, one of the things that I've been interested in exploring, I called it Zatnet, and it's essentially like remote browsing of like a file system. Okay, so someone could host the ZecHub wiki on their computer, and through Zatnet, you could be like through some kind of client or something similar to a wallet, you could be browsing through the different wiki pages. So I don't think we've mentioned, but the Zcash block time is approximately 75 seconds. So there is like delay. And because of this, I think the user experience would be something like the early internet or something like this. Yeah, Paku, have you got any ideas of how the encrypted memo field could be used?
Yes. One thing to consider is that Encrypted Memos currently don't provide any form of authentication. So although you could use them to prove a concept that you want to build, that you want to continue to build. So it is solely valid to build an application around authenticated memos that are currently not authenticated, and proceed with it. So we don't exclude any idea, but that's important, something to know. A memo is a piece of information that accompanies each shielded note. The transparent Zcash is a UTXO model, and the shielded Zcash is based on shielded nodes. That means that every output of a Zcash transaction has a memo. It could have a memo of 512 bytes that you can use arbitrarily to send anything that you might want to send, and that memo usually is used in a text form by wallets to, I don't know, if I share a meal with Squirrel, for example, and he pays, and I'll want to pay half. I say, okay, I'll then use that for half of the meal, and I can actually send the amount of Zec to his wallet and add this little text note that says, hey, thanks for paying for the meal. This is my share of it, and that will be in the transaction that sends the funds, and then it will be easy for him to see, what are those funds about, and that will be between him and myself. So that's the most basic use of memos. But for example, you could build an application that actually uses memos to do other stuff, and use those bytes that you have to build a more complex message with some binary serialization that conveys more information than just a friendly message or whatever. And that's a very interesting use of the memos, because if it's a way that you can communicate an application receiving information through the Zcash blockchain and do things. So it's pretty cool. But when it comes to thinking the security model of your application, you have to consider that for a production application, you probably want memos that are authenticated. Like if your application is going to make decisions, like business decisions based on the contents of a memo, because anyone that for example, if I have an application that tracks this viewing key that receives shielded memos, then someone could actually decompile the application and get the viewing key, and then send derive addresses to from that viewing key and send memos to it, and then they could make your application do things like you don't want to, or crash or something like that. So that's why memos have been used in a very limited way. For example, Zec Pages was a cool BBS kind of site that you could publish things on the board by sending a memo to the application, and well, there was no message that will make the application do something harmful. So it was okay to just like read the memos and display them on screen. And that was a very good use case for the memos, for example. Totally harmless and secure.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. You just reminded me that I do owe you 0.5 Zec for our pool game. I'll get that to you.
So I know I'm gonna got it. I had forgotten about it. Thank you for being so honest.
Yep. Yeah. Beware of remote code execution. It's great that you mentioned authenticated memos. So, yeah, and it's also cool that we've got Sasha here. I think recently I've seen like a bunch of messages about ZSAs, and so let's go through. We don't have too much time, but let's dive into some of the upcoming Zcash upgrades. One of them is encrypted memo bundles. So this allows for, I think 65 chunks of 32 bytes. Is that right?
I think so. We could double check on the draft zip. But yes, the idea of memo bundles is that we can make memos longer with the like a variable length, so we can have this authenticated memos, which include cryptographic signature that we can verify for the author of a memo, and then be able to in some way trust the author of the memo and act on the contents of that memo. So then, for example, I always wanted to build this force update library around Zcash memos. For example, for mobile developers to be able to tell their applications that they need to update to this new version that it just had come up, but in a totally private way. Because how applications do that currently is to just launch and send a request to a server, sending all of this information about your device and your application version, and then that server will tell you whether you have to update you have a new version to update or not, or and there's a lot of like privacy leaks. And if you just track this memo viewing key from these authenticated memos, your application will just have to scan those messages on its own, and no information will be leaked because that server wouldn't be necessary, for example. And that could be a possible usage for this memo bundles, where the wallet developer could just send a message when they have a new application released, and they send this memo structure in a way that the application understands, and then the application, when it launches, scans the memos for that address, and it knows that it has there's a new version of the app, and tells the user without any servers being involved in the middle, just the Zcash blockchain using shielded applications. And that simple messaging unlocks a myriad of things where systems can interact through memos that are authenticated, and a lot of cool stuff can actually happen, like escrow services, or like simple logic that can be tied to this authenticated messages can be super powerful.
Agreed, definitely. In fact, my imagination has been going wild whilst you're speaking there. So there's this idea of like an internet on Zcash. You were just saying how you could do force updates for wallets via encrypted memo, and so if you combine the two, we have like a paradigm where you could have an app store that is hosted like on someone's node, and it's accessible by some kind of Zcash client, and you could even have like a code repository which someone could access via encrypted memo, and you could have an app store on Zcash for a Zcash app. Pretty wild.
Yeah, and also the memo bundle can be pruned from the transaction itself. So it's not that I can actually like start sending you this chunks of memos and bloating your application, for example. So one cool property of the memo bundle is that it's prunable, and not necessarily you're not obliged to actually get all the memos. You can just get like a small digest of the memo that is entailed under that transaction. So it's not that this memo bundles will be like memo bloats. It's and that's something really good about it, because currently something that happens is that if you have a memo in your transaction, if you're running a mobile wallet, that wallet doesn't get the full contents of the memo unless it downloads the full transaction. And currently Sashi does that through Tor on its last version, and gives you some high degree of privacy. But then like you don't know that you have a memo until you actually request the full transaction, and that lets your like client server actually learn a little bit about you. It's like when you query a block explorer for a transaction ID in a web browser, like that block explorer, except that you're using the Zcash block explorer that doesn't log anything. Then like usually block explorers learn your IP address and that you are interested in some transaction ID of some blockchain. And that kind of could happen on the like client model, where you actually query this transaction and you want to download it. So memo bundles will actually allow you to know that there are series of memos that are meant for you, but you don't have to download them if you don't want to. That's other something that's pretty cool. The memo bundle zip is zip 231 zip 321, and it's available to as a draft in zips.z.cash. If anyone wants to know a little bit more about them.
Yep. It's going to be really cool. So it's coming in network upgrade 7, and this is projected, I think, for sometime early next year. Fingers crossed.
It's a candidate for network upgrade 7, yes.
Okay, so very quickly, I'm going to mention something that I'd like to see as one of many judges on this hackathon. We know that whatever application you're building is going to be hosted by you, right? Probably on one device. So a way of distributing or reducing the amount of trust that is required for people to use your application is to use something called Frost. And so this is essentially shielded multi-sig for Zcash. And so I'm going to post a link to Frost. I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but this should allow you to use FrostD. And maybe if you're part of a team, you could distribute I don't know, the spending key shares or the shares for spend authority. And so, yeah, this is just like a way of safeguarding the funds which are deposited into whatever app, right?
Yeah, if you're interested in using Frost, you should check. You should Google like Frost Zcash Foundation, and that will lead you to the Frost book, which the name book can be a little bit intimidating, but is a very brief document that introduces you to what Frost is and how it works, and it has a really concise tutorial on how to create 3 wallets and use 2 wallets to create a transaction that is kind of a threshold sig because it's not a multi-sig. You can use like 2 or 3, which is pretty cool, and it's really simple to follow through if you have ever used a terminal in your computer. And there are a bunch of nice demos in the Zcash Foundation YouTube that you can actually watch that go through this very same tutorial. And it would be very interesting to see something built around Frost.
Thank you. Okay, so we've gone over the hour, I think. Just perhaps some closing notes here. Yeah, we were talking about some things coming in NE7. One of them is Zcash shielded assets, or likely to be included in NE7. So Zcash shielded assets will allow anyone to mint a private asset on Zcash L1. So you can mint tokens, you'll be able to transfer tokens, you'll be able to burn tokens. So this makes it somewhat similar to like the basic functions of a smart contract, where you can mint, burn, and transfer. And so I think what we're likely to see is different groups who have until now been unable to become engaged with Zcash, start to experiment. And so you, as builders who are doing things now, learning the stack, testing things out, I think you'll be probably in a good position when these new features arrive. So yeah, definitely keep trying, definitely keep experimenting, and reading the docs which are available. I think it's draft zip 228, which is the asset swap feature for Zcash shielded assets. And one of the methods that assets could be swapped is to have like a decentralized network. So this is off protocol. You could have people who maybe it could be bundled with, like if you're a Zebra node operator, you have this software which is bundled with your node that allows you to swap assets for people. And, maybe this, as, performing this function, you could be earning a portion of fees. So we could see some interesting things happening where people are like beginning to run infrastructure to earn fees and cool things like that. And last words here. If you're participating in the hackathon, check out WebZ.js library. I tried it once and it was very difficult to use. Maybe you'll have more luck, but you can run a Zcash wallet in the web browser. So this could be something cool that you could test out, like a website which has a Zcash wallet built in. And another thing is shade agents. So the Near protocol has this new thing called shade agents, which is AI agents running on TEEs, which allow you to do cool things like maybe swap assets in DeFi. So you could deposit your Zec into whatever service or whatever app, and you could like select to swap it for something in DeFi. I don't know. And it happens like using verifiable code. Yeah, so check out Shade Agents. I'll try and find a link and post it in the replies. And yeah, if you've tried Zashi swaps, you could build something similar to that. I think there's also a new SwapKit integration which does something like that as well. So I'll post the links. Thanks everyone for joining. It's been a fairly long call, but I hope you learned something. Any closing words, Paco or Dismad?
Thanks everyone for your time, and if you have any questions, we'll be here. And for some more ideas on apps, check out our YouTube ZecHub. There was a video on Magic Wormhole for file transfers using Zcash. Something could be done there.
Yep. Well, good luck to you all in this hackathon. And yes, there is. I sent a few links to Squirrel, so he can post on the ZecHub account about the Zcashers wish list, which is a curated list of ideas that the Zcashers would like to see built. Some of them are really complex, and some others are more simple, and they are prioritized by their amount of likes that they got on the forum post. So you have them out there with their small description, and they are linked to the post on the forums that explains the idea. So it could be a source of inspiration for you to start warming up your minds and think outside the box for this hackathon. So good luck to you all again. Thank you for having me here and having this great idea of a hackathon.
Awesome. Thank you. Cheers everyone for joining. Yeah, if you've got questions, feel free to tag me in the Discord. Bye.